All right, we have a few petition articles this evening. So starting with Article 35.
I move Article 35 as written in the warrant.
Okay, I have a motion.
And
I have a second. A motion's been made and seconded to approve Article 35. We have some information from the sponsor.
Hi, everybody. My name is Patty Cooney. I'm at 5 Canterbury Path in Carver, Mass. I've lived in Carver my whole life. I'm a lifelong resident. My children are so excited when they can watch me at meetings on Area 58 when they are recorded. I want to show my kids they can have a voice in their town. Carver Concerned Citizens ask you to vote yes on Article 35. The purpose of Article 35 is to encourage people like me to participate in our local government and to become active in making our democracy work for the benefit of everyone. There are 5 parts to Article 35. I will go over them. Number 1, we want to provide all our residents the chance to speak to our town boards and committees at their meetings. Under the open meeting law, the chair of a board can decide whether or not to allow citizen participation. Now, most of our boards decide not to. We ask the voters to change that and ask our boards to have a portion of each meeting set aside for public comment. We realize the board can set a time limit on citizen participation, but right now there is no chance to address most of our boards and committees. This allows us to exercise our constitutional right to petition our government in the proper meeting about a topic they are responsible for. The Constitution gives us the right to talk about during public comment. Number 2 is about open government and access for everyone to be able to attend in person or watch live on Area 58. This article would have Area 58 record the meetings of all core boards in town, and we list 8 of them. This is so people can be involved and informed. Also, we ask that these 8 boards have their meetings at separate times so people can attend. Number 3 asks that citizens be able to have items put on the agenda of relevant boards and committees. For example, if someone has concern about wetlands, they could ask to be on the agenda for the Conservation Commission and be given the chance to speak their concerns at the meeting. Number 4 asks for a vote to obtain new town council. CCC feels town council should be an advocate for all the residents and for the people of the town. We feel there is bias towards developers and vested interests, and the legal advice from town council does not put the best interests of the townspeople first. The advice given by Attorney Corbo in 2018 that led to the zoning change that allowed Cranberry Point to be put in a residential neighborhood was not looking out for the safety and that of our families and community. We ask for a change. Number 5 simply asks that the current bylaws be followed on attendance requirements for boards and committee members, limiting how many permitting boards a person can be on, banning finance committee members from being on other boards, and making sure board members are sworn in. These are existing laws now. We just ask them to be followed. In summary, we ask voters to vote for fair and open government, to encourage citizens to participate in our democracy at local levels. We ask town officials to support transparency and accountability in local governments.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make a motion that we take these individually.
Hold on, one sec. I'm sorry, what was your motion, Mr. Jermaine?
Motion is that we take these individually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, I have a motion made and seconded to divide the question based on the numbers associated with each section. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Give you the reason?
Yeah, do you want to share?
The reason I'm saying that is because it's very complex. It's very different. Each one is very different. So while you might support one, in order to support that one, you have to support them all. If you don't like the second one, then another's a quagmire. I'd like to see them done one at a time.
Okay. On the motion to divide the question, we'll go ahead and open that up for a debate.
I'd like to vote for,
We're not voting, so.
I know, I'd like to support the amendment to separate them all out, please.
Okay. Yep, yes, sir.
Will Hunter
Or
for
did you have a, I'm sorry, you were standing there first. Did you have a comment on the division?
I actually rose to make the motion made by the Chair of the Finance Council, and I just wanted to say that I find myself in totally in agreement for the same reasons. So,
Okay, excellent.
me too.
All right. We'll entertain any other discussion other than what we've already heard, which is support for the motion. You can voice that by voting. Yep. All right. Okay. So with that, okay, on the motion to divide the question on Article 35, citizens petition to see if the town will vote to address each point separately as indicated by the numbers next to each section. This does require a majority vote. We'll go ahead and open the vote now and give you 20 seconds. Okay, please close the vote. Okay, and the motion passes with 166 yes and 78 no. So with that, we'll go ahead and start then with section 1, which addresses citizens' participation. And I've asked Mr. Corbo to provide us with some legal advice on this one.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Moderator. So this first part would require that there be a citizen participation section at every public meeting of a town board or committee. And this particular article is of doubtful legality. And in fact, just last year, the Attorney General disapproved a similar bylaw enacted in the town of Wareham, which would have prohibited the Board of Selectmen, Zoning Board of Appeals, Conservation Commission, Planning Board, Board of Health from refusing to acknowledge or accept comments from residents during citizens' petition. And the Attorney General's reasoning was twofold. First of all, the Open Meeting Law, Chapter 30A, allows the chair of the board of a public body to establish the agenda for that public body. And taking that away from the chair would be in conflict with a specific provision of state law. But for the broader reason, the Attorney General's office also acknowledged that there is a separation of powers in local government between the legislative branch of government and the executive branch of government. And town meeting is the legislative branch of government, and town meeting has the authority to do things like appropriate funds and create laws, but it does not have the authority to dictate to the executive branch how to exercise matters that are within its discretion. So the scheduling of meetings, the determination of what should be on the agenda, the determination of whether or to what extent citizen participation should be allowed, these are all matters that are within the executive branch of government and are left to the discretion of the executive branch. So in my opinion, if this article were to be positively voted at this meeting, it would be simply advisory to the select board or the other executive bodies here. It would not be binding, and to the extent that this is interpreted as being a bylaw, it is likely that it would be disapproved by the Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Corbo. Yes, sir.
Will Hunter, 4 Lakeview Street. The purpose described here cites the Article 19 of the Massachusetts State Constitution, which, in my opinion, is the gold standard of state constitutions. Our U.S. Constitution of 1789 was modeled on it.
You just make sure to speak in like a little closer to the microphone.
Was modeled on it. That being said, the Article 19 is the right to assemble, peaceful manner, all these great rights that are enshrined. This article that is proposed is sort of like grandmom's nightgown. It says that any topic of importance to any resident may be presented at any public meeting. To me, that's problematic. I don't think we need to tell the Council of Aging at their meeting that they need to hear a complaint from me about the zoning on my house. That would be appropriate at the zoning and planning meeting or the planning board, and that board should be able to regulate within its own power that we're going to talk about planning things here, zoning things here, finance things here. This opens up for anyone to say anything and waste public time and effort. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further debate on section 1? Yeah.
I'm Donna Forand. I'm the chair of the Carver Council on Aging, and I come before you to ask you to vote no on Section 1 because similar to what the gentleman before me said, somebody from the DPW could come before the Carver Council on Aging and request that we do something specific that has nothing to do with the Carver Council on Aging. So I ask you to please do not support Section 1.
Thank you, Ms. Foran. Yes, sir.
Paul Johnson, 3 Laurie Lane. I doubt that this petition would have been here if citizens' participation hadn't been regularly abused in this town, especially when people that they disagree with come before the towns. As to the legal opinion that we just got, would you please go back and review several of the public records open meeting law determinations that went against the advice that Mr. Corbo has given on a number of occasions? There are precedents in state law now, in open meeting law, that we were told that we didn't have to be advised when they were negotiating with somebody like a town administrator. That was overturned. We won that through the process of open meeting public records law complaints. So as long as your opinion agrees with people, you don't need this. But the abuse of this, of citizens' participation, has been there long before this article. And they're not the only ones to complain. So be careful, because when it's your opinion that's not popular, you'll have a different opinion about why you need this bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Hold your applause. Hold your applause. Hey, we don't, no shouting out. Thank you.
Hi, Deb Giswaldo, 204 Main Street. I just wanted to say, we have a school committee that hears every public comment that comes before them, every single one. They may not shake their head yes, or say no to something, or even give their opinion, but they listen. I attend committee meetings from time to time, and it is becoming more and more often that there is no public comment. We're sitting here at a direct town meeting, the purest form of democracy there is. And this requires voices, whether you like what I have to say, or what he says, or what she says, or the guy around the corner says. It requires public participation. I do not like the direction the boards have taken. It is stifling opinion. I am certainly sure that no one is going to go to the school committee meeting next month and order French fries. Okay? We have more self-control than that. I understand what our legal counsel is saying, but something has to give. If something doesn't change, I say vote these people out who don't think we need public comment.
Again, hold your applause. Hold your applause. Guys. Yes.
Mary Dormer, 162 Plymouth Street. There is, excuse me, there is no downside to voting this in. There have been several instances this year alone where I have had to send email after email after email to get the select board to address things like the brown water on Lake and Ham Drive, the 40B Edaville issue. We are not being allowed to address our boards, and we really need to open it up so that this community can work together.
Thank you, Ms. Dormer. Yeah, on the right. Yep.
Hi, Jacqueline Shanley, 68 Fosdick Road. I just want to comment that I've worked for town government for 20 years, 2 different towns, for the Board of Selectmen. And they always, both towns, had public open comment. Maybe it's a matter of just respect. I don't think that anyone from DPW is going to go to the Council on Aging and ask absurd questions. Maybe it comes down to respect and also understanding that the taxpayers are the ones who are paying the salaries for town government, and we have volunteers for these boards, but it works both ways. It has to be mutual respect, and even with that open public comment time, we all have to be respectful too and understand that the meeting needs to move along, but I think it can be cordial, but I think it is absurd that that is not allowed. And I don't think anyone has the right to say that that is not allowed, even by, you know, a state level, attorney general, whatever it is. It's wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, please hold the applause, folks. We appreciate that you're supporting those who are speaking, but your time to support is when you vote. Yes, sir.
Yes, Will Hunter for Lakeview Street. There's been a national trend that we've noticed in school boards where small political minorities bring absurd or fringe votes and overtake boards. It's not happening in Massachusetts. But so to say that someone's not going to go to the DPW and order French fries, actually, it's happening in Texas. So it could happen here. However, whether your opinion is that there's been abuses in the town and abuse of power and not listening to the taxpayers, well, I'm a taxpayer too. And any abuse by any board alleged or by any council is not an excuse for a poorly crafted article. This is too broad and not well written. I think whoever wrote it probably should have sought counsel of their own upon writing it to make sure that it would pass muster and not be too broad. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, on the right.
Dan Farini, Fosdick Road. I'm backing this because I have been to a number of meetings where the townspeople have come in and asked to speak and they have been denied on various articles. So all they're asking today is to be able to be given the right to speak their mind and their opinion during a meeting, which they should be able to within this town. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, in the middle.
Brenda McCall, 34 Kennedy Drive. My opinion on this is I sit on a board for Cranberry Village, and basically all this is asking is that the boards just listen. They're not asking that anybody makes a decision or does anything. It's just if somebody comes to a school board, they have something, you listen. We may not like it. I mean, I have 280 homes in my community, and people come to meetings all the time, and we as a board, we have to sit and we have to listen. We don't have to give an answer, but I think we're all elected, and the people have a right to come and talk about or let you know whatever it is. And that's my opinion on this, is that you just have to give them whatever time is allotted and listen. You don't have to make any decisions. But I think elected boards should listen.
Thank you. And I'm not sure if it was Mr. Townsend or on the right.
It doesn't matter. Mark Townsend, 10 Harvest View Way. I'm also chairman of your select board. Just a point of clarification on a previous comment. The Select Board does have citizens' participation at the start of virtually every Select Board meeting, and we don't put restrictions on what you have to say at our meetings. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. On the right?
Karen Lapham, Main Street in Carver. I've been a resident for 30 years in town. Last year was my first time of really coming to a town meeting and paying attention and getting involved, and I spent my 3 whole nights here because that's what you do. I have a notebook full of, I've gone to almost every meeting in the past 6 to 8 months. I say it's date night because that's what I do. Many of these boards do not let you speak, and sometimes maybe if you let a resident just get up and ask a question or two, you will cut down on some of the clarification that people might just be asking for as a simple homeowner, and what does that exactly mean? I've been allowed to speak at a meeting on 2 occasions where they usually didn't have speaking, but they said, sure, go ahead, and when I get into my question, was cut off by the town lawyer and asked to sit down and stop finishing my question. And it's just absurd, because if the board gives you permission and someone else makes you sit down, I think a lot of the miscommunication within our town about what's going on with the solar and what's going on with the bogs and what's going on with that. You know, these meetings it's not like there's 50 or 60 people at any of these town meetings that I've been to. I think maybe the most 40, if that, and that's really picking a number, because I would say 10, 12, 15, 30 at the most. I don't know. It's not like it's taken a ton of time. I think that being able to ask a question or two at any of these meetings should be what we're allowed to do. And maybe that would cut down on some of maybe the animosity might be the word. I don't know, that it might just put clarification for people. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'm just going to make a statement here. So the conversation is getting a little repetitive. We do have the opportunity to vote, and that's your opportunity to show your support. So if you're coming forward just to show your support, keep that in mind, that we'd prefer for you to do that through voting. If you have new information, a new point or a new perspective, let's hear that. But we've heard a lot of talk so far about that this would be a really great idea. It would give citizens an opportunity to speak and be heard that they're not getting today. We've heard the counterpoint that it could tie up a lot of time. It could make boards feel like they have to do things that may not be within their purview. So these sort of points have already been addressed. We want to hear something new. So I think you were next in the middle, sir.
Sean Patine, 17 Bow Street, Carver. Mr. Moderator, through you, I have a question for Town Council. Would this article as written allow persons, the ability to effectively halt a meeting or a board through continued questions or continued motions? Could they grind to a halt and prevent a board from doing its duty?
Mr. Corbo?
Through you, Mr. Moderator, I do believe that that's the concern that some of the opponents have suggested here. This is written in a very broad way that citizen petition will be allowed at all duly called meetings, and there will be no restriction on the topic presented to any board. Any topic of importance to any resident may be presented at any public meeting. So that means that if the board has an agenda and has certain 5 essential items that they need to vote on that evening, and 20 residents can come in and monopolize the entire meeting. And the Supreme Judicial Court recently commented on this and recognized, and I quote, "In order to function efficiently, towns must be able to hold public meetings limited to a particular subject without violating Article 19, so long as the town provides other opportunities to exercise this right." So the way that this is worded, boards' hands are tied, and they are at the whim of anybody who decides to come in and present items to the board.
I'm not sure which one of you guys was first. I'm sorry.
Hi, Kelly Nemi, 22 Thatcher Street, school committee member. I do believe that everybody should have the right to speak at a public meeting, but this is very, very broad and opens us up for a lot of different actions that could be disruptive. As a school committee member, we have experienced people coming to our school committee meetings, screaming, swearing, abuse, and being removed by the police. And that just happened recently. In times of contention, this is what happens when people come to speak publicly. And not only do they speak publicly, but then they continue to scream through the entire meetings. I've been present as a member and also present as an attendee when these things happened. So I think stronger language around what can be presented and how the behavior should be at these meetings should be specified in this.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Ms.
I
Dormer.
just want to clarify something that Mark Townsend said when he said that any topic can be discussed at a meeting. Up until recently, up until actually that the citizens petition was put in December, there was a line on all the agendas that said citizens participation is limited to what is on the agenda. It also says that it is limited to 10 minutes and 3 minutes for each participation. So essentially, 3 people can get up and talk for 3 minutes. Nobody's trying to abuse anything. Town council, the Board of Selectmen, everybody had an opportunity to call us and say, let's work on the language of this before we got to town meeting. Nobody did that. This is the problem in this town. And it needs to change. We need to come together and we need to start doing things as a community so that it benefits everybody in this town.
Thank you, Ms. Dormer. Yes, in the middle.
Brenda McCall, 34 Kennedy Drive. I think what we need to remember is these are working meetings. The select board meeting is a working meeting. The school board meeting, the finance, they're all working meetings. So if every resident of this town was able to go to a meeting and take 3 minutes, you guys would get nothing done, and the meetings would be like this, 2, 3 nights long. So they have to be able to put some time limits on things, and they have to be able to, yes, listen to the people that are in the room and hear their comments, but if there's 500 people that come in and everybody gets 3 minutes, then the boards will never get anything done. So it has to be done reasonably. And maybe this does need to be, changed as far as the verbiage goes, but these, again, we can't forget are working meetings, that you guys have business that you have to get done. And to let everybody come and just speak randomly, which I think everybody should be able to, but within the limit of what needs to get done. Again, I have 280 homes, and if every one of those people came and wanted to speak, we as a board would get nothing done. The town of Carver, if everybody came, or 100 or 2, you guys would get nothing done. So maybe it has to be reworded a little bit so that everybody gets a say, but within the structure that you guys can still get your business done.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to make a statement again here to say I really want to let people be heard on this because it's about people being heard, right? But I also want to respect the time of everyone in this room tonight. We still have quite a bit more here to get through, and the arguments are getting repetitive. So we've now heard that that these citizen participations can be very disruptive, and they could wrangle a hold of a meeting, right? And we've heard that from several people. So keep that in mind as you're approaching the mic. Has what I'm about to say already been said? We could have everybody who's for this article come up and tell us why they're for it. We could have everybody come up and say why they're against it and repeat each other. Or we could just put this to a vote and we could let people decide with their vote. Yep.
Okay. All right. Jen Bogart, 116 Cranberry Road. I'm speaking as a select board member, but not on behalf of the select board. I think the select board does a good job in having citizens participation every meeting, but like a previous speaker said, it was only recently that it was changed to be allowed to, they can bring up anything, not just what's on the agenda. And I think that's important because, switching to my resident's hat, if I'm unable to go to a meeting and speak to a board, then I just have to hope and rely that sending the board members an email or using the comment form on the website is working and getting to them. And who knows if the emails are being read, the comments are going through, they work. The email addresses even work. So I think having a mandatory citizen participation time period is a good thing. And it has been working for us. But I do think the limits should be set. I think I've experienced, I think our 3 minutes are adequate. We have dealt with it, and Chairman Townsend has done a good job. We don't respond to anything anyone says or get into conversations, answer questions, but we listen so we can maybe talk about it in the future, get the facts, figure out, be productive in what we say. But we'll listen to any comment, but we may not respond. So I think it's a good idea to have a mandatory citizen participation where the board can listen to anything, but I think a 3-minute time limit is good, and then an overall time limit. We have a 10-minute time limit. I could see that being expanded to 15, maybe 20 max, because I see it going a long time in certain places. So I think this is good, but I do think it needs to be tweaked, and I don't know who wants to try to write an amendment. I can go up there and try to do it now, but I'm going to need time before a vote. But that's just, okay.
Okay, keep it down, keep it down.
I think we're doing a good job. I think other boards should have to listen. So, because we'll listen to you at the select board.
Again, out of respect to the speakers, please keep your voices down. Yeah, on the right.
Kim Shea, 148 Plymouth Street. And reading this, I was reading it over and listening to what everybody had to say, but nowhere in this does it say that the entire meeting has to be about citizens' participation. It doesn't take away the right of the chair to chair the meeting and to limit the time of citizens' participation. It's basically saying that we get to go up and have a conversation with our boards and our committees, whether or not something is on the agenda or not. Because maybe you want to speak to something from a previous meeting. So I just wanted to point that out, of the spear mongering that we're going to be there for 2 or 3 days. That's not what this says. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shea. Okay, again, no shouting out.
Call the question.
Okay, seeing no hands raised and no motion to the mic, we'll go ahead and put this to a vote. It does require a majority vote. On the Article 35 on citizen participation, we'll go ahead and open the vote now and give you 20 seconds. Okay, please close the vote. Okay, and the motion fails with 114 yes and 131 no. Moving on to Part 2 of Article 35. Yep.
I'd like
Ms.
to make
Foran.
a motion to reconsider this article.
Okay. A motion's been made and second to reconsider the previous item, Section 1 of Article 35.
Second.
I'll go ahead and open that for debate. See, again, I know we've been asked several times to clarify what a yes or no is. So a yes would reconsider this article, bring it up again for discussion. A no vote would not reconsider the article, and it would not be able to be reconsidered again, since reconsideration can only happen once per bylaws. It does require a 2/3 vote. Okay, and with that, seeing no motion of the mics and no hands raised, we'll go ahead and put this to a vote. So we'll go ahead and open the voting now and give you 20 seconds. Okay, please close the vote. All right, and the motion to reconsider Article 35, Section 1 fails with 88 yes and 152 no. Moving on to Article 35, Section 2. Do I have a motion? Okay, I got a motion made and seconded on Article 35, Section 2. Do we have any information from the sponsor?
Hi, Patty Cooney again. So we do have, Area 58 does come to some of the meetings and does record them, but they don't do it with all of them. The ERC meetings are starting to get recorded, but, it's really important because, like they said, not everybody can get to these meetings. So, having that digital copy that you can be able to go and see, it's definitely helpful for people that can't make it. And if we had the open meeting, then you could re-talk about things potentially, but maybe that would change eventually. So it's definitely good to have everything recorded, I think.
Thank you. Before we open it for today, I did ask for a legal opinion from Mr. Corbo.
Thank you through you, Mr. Moderator. Most of the comments I made before apply to this as well. I would point out in addition that Area 58 is a private nonprofit entity. And so the authority of the town meeting to compel this private party to record every meeting in the town is not within the jurisdiction of this body, in my opinion. That's up to them as to whether or not they have the resources to record every single one of these meetings. Otherwise, as I said, out of deference to the separation of powers for legislative and executive branch, boards need to have the discretion to schedule meetings when they are able.
Thank you, sir. We'll open it for debate in the middle. Yes.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, if I may ask the petitioner of this subsection of the article, what discussions, if any, they had with Area 58 about what impact it would have, on their burdens and their, do they have enough people to staff these meetings? Do they have, enough ability to fulfill the desire of this subsection?
Okay. Yep.
I didn't ask them, but they generally do come. They say, well, if you need us to come record it, we can. I've known that before, that they do. They're pretty open to recording them, so.
Mr. Moderator, I would just say that, if we're putting this forward, we should probably, talk with the people who we're asking to do stuff with it. That would probably be a good idea. I would support, if somebody wanted to bring it, I don't plan on doing so, but an amendment that says all meetings may be recorded by perhaps somebody in the audience, I would support that, but this doesn't seem thought through.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Through you, if I can just address that
Sure.
last point. Under the open meeting law, any person has a right to record a public meeting as long as that recording does not physically interfere with the conduct of the meeting. The only limitation is that the chair needs to make an announcement that the meeting is being recorded.
Thank you, Mr. Corbo. Yes, Ms. Fornett.
I'd like to speak to this as chair of the Council on Aging. So first of all, to have the word all in here is not practical. I was just at one of our other meetings, a select board meeting, when the Area 58 guy had to run from the police station all the way back to town hall, turn that camera on, run all the way back to the police station. So obviously they don't have enough staff to do the recording. I asked the guy as I was doing the same thing going to another meeting. But getting back to this also, they do not, it's put in here that we cannot schedule multiple meetings on the same night. It's so hard to fill positions now on boards, and if a particular committee can only meet on a particular night, you're going to tell me that our committee can't meet on that night anymore because there's another meeting going on? I just think that this whole, the way this whole thing was written needs to be rewritten. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you were next.
Yeah, I just have a response. As far as having that all committee meetings are recorded, it is up to the chair generally, but we want to make a motion to amend and take that part out, but we need to have it so the meetings are scheduled on separate days, because like most people, you can't be in two places at once, and a lot of the meetings are important for you to see. So if you're having the select board meeting and an ERC meeting at the same exact time, you can't really go to both. And then if they're not recorded, then you totally miss whatever happened at that one. So there's got to be give and take. I understand that, we didn't talk to Area 58. The chair's the one that decides if the meetings are recorded or not. And, they do have that option. But having the meetings on the same night. You can't make it to both of them, and if they're not recorded, that's kind of not helpful.
Can you state the amendment? I'm sorry.
To strike the first part out, that the following boards and committees will have all their meetings recorded by Area 58. And to just put in that, at least not have the meetings scheduled on the same days.
Okay, can you provide that in writing, please? Okay, so we have a motion to amend the motion on the floor to strike the first sentence that says, for the purposes of transparency in our town government, the following boards and committees will have all their meeting recorded by Area 58. Approval of the chair of the, approval of the chair of the board is not necessary. So that language would be struck. Okay, motion's been made. Do I have a second? Okay, motion's been made and seconded. We'll go ahead and open the amendment up for debate. Mr. Townsend, are you debating the amendment?
I am.
You are. Okay, we'll hear you.
So do I understand the amendment correctly that they will
We have a point of order, sorry. No. Thank you. We'll clear it. Mr. Townsend.
Do I understand the amendment correctly that there will no longer be a requirement to have all meetings recorded, but there still will be a requirement not to schedule conflicting meetings? Do I understand that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll just speak to the second part then. I think as far as meetings being scheduled on the same night, I agree. I would like to see them not scheduled on the same night, but I can tell you, as the select board, oftentimes we have to schedule additional meetings. One of the hardest jobs I have as chairman is trying to find common ground, a common time when we can schedule a meeting. And I think it's the same way with most boards and committees in town. People work. These are all volunteers, and they have...
So, Mr. Townsend, I'm sorry, I have to stop you because the amendment isn't regarding meetings on the same night. It's regarding striking some language from the original motion.
Okay.
So when we go back to the main motion, I think your point might be more valid.
All right, I'll save
Yep.
it. Thank you.
Nope. Do you have further
Yeah.
discussion? Okay.
So, to clarify, we're not opposed to meetings being scheduled on the same day, but they're being scheduled at the same time. And if they're not being recorded, again, it denies the residents.
Okay, again, we need to be talking about whether or not to strike the language that you have asked. So that first sentence, so we want to discuss the merits of removing that or adding it. So is that where you're going with this, or?
Well, I was responding to Mr. Townsend.
Yeah, I also said that
Okay.
that his wasn't valid to the discussion. So I'm just trying to keep things moving. I'm sorry, I'm not, and you can definitely talk about this when we get back to the main motion. Yep. Amendment? No. Okay. You have a question on the amendment?
All the questions.
All right. Seeing no hands raised and no motion to the mic, we will go ahead and put the amendment to a vote. This requires a majority vote. We will open the vote now and give you 20 seconds. Okay, please close the vote. Okay, and with that, the amendment fails with 107 yes and 121 no. So the motion will remain as is. Now I don't know who was first. I'm sorry. They're deferring to you, Mr. Moore.
Thank you. This is to the second part of that, where it says, additionally, the practice of scheduling multiple meetings at the same time or on the same day will cease immediately. Basically, we have 4 nights a week when we can have meetings, Monday through Thursday. There are 8 committees here. During the months of January, February, and March, the Select Board, the Planning Board, and the Finance Committee have a tendency to meet once a week to get ready for meetings like tonight's. Who makes the decision which of the remaining 5 boards gets the 1 remaining night?
All right, keep it down. I think these guys are over here. All right. Yep.
Well, honestly, I think that's something that has to be worked out, regardless of whether or not everybody's going to laugh about it. The fact of the matter is, the residents are entitled to attend these meetings, and when you stack them so that it's impossible for us to attend them, that's a problem. And that's what's happening in this town repeatedly.
All right, and Ms. Dormer, just keep in mind that you've had 2 chances to speak now, so you can't respond to everybody. Mr. Townsend.
Thank you. Once again, Mark Townsend, 10 Harvest View Way. Just to the second part of this this article, as far as meetings being scheduled on the same night, it's very difficult sometimes to find a common time that members can attend a meeting. And if we have to start picking and choosing days around other meetings, it's going to make it very hard. I mean, there are times I can tell you, the board knows, we go back and forth a lot just trying to find a common day that we can schedule an extra meeting. So those are my thoughts on that. And I believe the Area 58 recording of meetings is back in now. We turned down the amendment. So as far as Area 58, we have to remember that they serve 3 towns, not just Carver. They serve 3 towns. They have very limited staff. And I do have concerns that if we make it mandatory that every one of these meetings be on Area 58, then we are going to have meetings canceled because they are not going to have staff available. We try as the Select Board to have every single one of our meetings taped, whether it's a regular meeting or a 10-minute special meeting. But I think the mandating of that is just wrong. I encourage all the meetings to be on TV, but I think it's wrong to mandate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Who was first here? Mr. Germain.
Alan Germain, 24 Pine. I'm the chairman of the Finance Committee. First of all, there's no school committee in this list, and they typically take a Monday, and there is a pecking order. It's kind of an unwritten pecking order, but the Select Board get room 1, and the Planning Board gets room 1, and the FinCom gets room 1, and that's how that works. During the month of February, FinCom was having 2 meetings a week because we had to get the budget done 30 days in advance. There were still ONCOM meetings, there were still Planning Board meetings, there were still Select Board meetings. We have 3 meeting rooms in the building. I have always advocated that every single meeting should be recorded. I still do. However, Area 58 is a private corporation. So let me ask this question, and this is something for everyone to think about. We get 7 people, 10 people, we've had 11 people on FinCom during my tenure. We have a meeting, and Area 58, oops, the guy got sick, he didn't show up. Do we then, it's like not having a quorum, do we say, well, there's nobody here to record the meeting tonight, the meeting's been canceled? What if this is a meeting that needs to happen because we have deadlines? This piece of paper is one of them. I'm calling a worst case scenario. Let's go different. Let's go that we're dealing with a developer before Concom or the Planning Board. And this guy wants to get the project done, and Area 58 can't show up tonight. Or they forgot, and it wouldn't be the first time. And it's no detriment to them, but people scheduling gets screwed up. What then? You'd cancel the meeting? I think the mandate is where the problem comes in, requiring it. I think the 2 boards on the same night, we have 3 meeting rooms. I'm terribly sorry that there are people that would be interested in coming to a Planning Board meeting and a Select Board meeting Very, very seldom are they on the same night. Very seldom is Concom in conflict with the planning board. Nobody comes to a FinCom meeting. So it's not like this is a big deal here. I think this last couple of weeks, it was maybe the last month or so, because you guys were working, planning was working on bylaw changes. Concom was doing the same thing. Select Board was trying to get budgets done. So there was some conflicts on meeting nights. Just think twice before you try to mandate something that may not be possible to enforce.
Okay, and I'll just make a statement again. We've heard some repetitive conversation here, so we've heard some arguments for and against, and we've heard that there is an issue with requiring a private entity to do something. We've heard that that there are issues with the scheduling conflicts with requiring meetings to be on at different times and different nights. So if you're repeating something that's already been said, again, we don't need to repeat that. We can exercise our vote in order to show our support. Yes, sir, on the right.
Alan Maynard, 148A Plymouth Street. The practical objections cited by Mr. Townsend and Mr. Jermaine are not without merit. Perhaps inadvertently, they point out the wisdom of the first part. People can't be in two places at once. The entire schedule of the town can't be disrupted, so meetings are serial rather than parallel. This is the 21st century. We ran schools, courthouses, everything else remotely over the internet for close to a year due to a pandemic. I find it hard to believe that if people are committed to doing the steps that need to be taken, or taking the steps that need to be taken to have open meetings available to people, that we can't solve the problem of whether Area 58 is available or not, and just maybe craft an amendment that says that this will get done one way or another to the best of the ability of the town and the people on the boards, without making it mandatory that the camera operator is necessary to form a quorum. But to accomplish what this amendment, this article's provision says, I think it has some merit. So I'm glad the first part was not tossed.
Thank you, sir. Who was first? Ms. Hewins?
You can go. Thank you. Sarah Hewins, 52 Forest Street. I just wanted to add that not only did this forget the school board, as was mentioned, but there are many, many other boards and committees that also meet at Town Hall. The Ag Commission, the Recreation Commission, the Cultural Commission, the Carver Trail and Stewards Committee, and those are just 4 more. But there's a whole ton of committees. So it just makes it more and more difficult for any business to get done.
Okay. Again, some repetition here. Challenges with scheduling meetings, challenges with attending meetings, right? We've heard those arguments. Please, only something new. Do you have something new?
Just a quick note. Looking back to Article 25, the body voted down the Mullen Rule, which would have given some leniency to these boards to have somebody that misses a meeting, be able to participate once more. But now we're trying to tie their hands and not let them set their own meeting times. And I don't believe any part of this section would be passed by the Attorney General's office.
Thank you, sir. New information?
Just in regards to Mr. Jermaine mentioned deadlines of things being.
Okay, please state your name and address, sir.
I apologize. Karen Lapham from Main Street. Mr. Jermaine mentioned about deadlines, but I think we have deadlines for minutes to be posted, and we're very far behind on that. And I've never seen 100 people at any of the meetings that I've gone to. And some people might know a little more about town if they watched some of these meetings, and I'm sure a lot of them do. But some of these meetings do need to be videotaped. Earth removal is the biggest one that says no. I don't know why. And I think people would be more informed and learn more about their town if these meetings were. End of story. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Paul Johnson, 3 Laurie Lane. I actually can listen. I would like to make a motion to strike the words "by Area 58." that would just leave the committees, will have all their meetings recorded.
Okay, can you please provide it in writing? Okay, we have a motion made to amend Article 35, Section 2, so that the words "by Area 58" in the first sentence, for the purposes of transparency in our town government, the following boards and committees will have all their meetings recorded by Area 58. So that those three words "by Area 58" would be removed. Do we have a second? Okay, motion's been made and seconded. We'll go ahead and open it for debate. Yes, sir. Guys, keep it down.
Will Hunter for Lakeview Street. If striking by Area 58, who then would be mandated and responsible for making sure those are recorded? Would that fall onto the chairman of the board, that he or she would not be able to proceed until there was recording available? It's a question we should consider.
Can we get a legal opinion? What's that? Yeah, I don't know that we have a legal opinion, but I don't know if the writer of the article could address that in any way. Okay. Seeing no hands raised and no motion to the mic, we'll go ahead and put this to a vote. It requires a majority vote. So on the amendment to strike the language "by Area 58" from the first sentence of Article 35, Section 2, we will go ahead and put that to a vote and give you 20 seconds. Close the vote, please. Okay, the motion fails with 95 yes and 112 no. Okay, so going back to the main motion, I see no hands raised, no further motion to the mics, so we'll go ahead and vote on Article 35, Section 2. It requires a majority vote. Go ahead and open the vote and give you 20 seconds. Close the vote, please. Okay, the motion fails with 71 yes and 163 no. Moving on to Article 35, Section 3. I have a motion.
So for number 4, that we asked to obtain
It's number 3, and we need a motion.
Sorry. Oh, yeah, I motioned yes.
We have a motion made and seconded on Article 35, Section 3. You have some information to share?
This kind of goes back to the first one. At least, you know, we want to be able to talk with the boards about particular things, you know, as far as having ourselves be heard about stuff.
Okay, in the middle, sir. We'll go ahead and open it for debate. Yep.
So Ben Dexter, 149 High Street. I do have some concerns about the language, specifically the phrase "requested by a citizen of the Commonwealth." That's really broad. And my concern about that is that you can have, you know, if we were to have something maybe socially controversial, something come before a board or committee, you can have people from out of town who are citizens of the Commonwealth, who want to create some sort of mischief, or because they have their own issues and their own interests in their own municipalities. I don't think people from North Adams should be able to show up at a meeting and all of a sudden put stuff on our agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. On the right, sir.
Dan Farini, Fosdick Road. The reason this is written is, and a good example was Edaville, the housing that was supposed to be in there. We wrote to the select board to finally bring it to their attention. So this is so if anybody has anything they want to talk to about any board, it gives them 72 hours to send an email to the board, and the next board meeting, they bring it up and they address it. So again, this is the open government. This is so if I've got a problem or I want to discuss something that the board is working on, I can bring it up so we can discuss it at that board meeting. It's a simple request. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Forand?
So I would ask you not to support this as it is written, primarily because of the Commonwealth, what the previous speaker said. But moving on, the board, the next statement here must be placed on the agenda of any board or any committee within 72 hours of a meeting and addressed no later than the next scheduled meeting. Well, what happens if you're having hearings and things like that, and what you want to put on the agenda just is not appropriate for a night of hearings that you might be having? I just think all of this stuff is just, it needs to be re-looked at and rewritten in many different ways, and I ask you not to support this section either.
Thank you, Ms. Forand. Mr. Moore?
Savory Moore, 12 South Main Street. I agree with Ms. Forand, but my disagreement with this is the use of the word jurisdiction. People have a different idea of what a jurisdiction of each committee may or may not be, and this basically allows them to make a decision as to what they feel the jurisdiction is and then supply an agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Yes, sir, on the right.
I would, Alan Maynard, 148 Plymouth Street. I would note two things. One is the board knows its own jurisdiction and its own competence. If the item is not within their jurisdiction, they have no compulsion to pursue it. And having said on many committees and things, not in the town, but elsewhere, addressed doesn't mean that it gets resolved. Doesn't mean it gets 14 hours of debate. It means it gets noted and gets moved and added on, and there's some form of action is taken. The action could be to table till the next meeting or whatnot. I would like to propose, I'd like to move an amendment to strike the word Commonwealth and replace it with Town of Carver. And I'll write that down if necessary.
Okay, yeah, please provide it in writing. Okay, we have a motion made and seconded. We have a motion made and seconded to strike the word Commonwealth in Section 3 of Article 35, and replace it with Town of Carver, such that it will now read, any agenda item relative to board jurisdiction requested by a citizen of the Town of Carver will be placed on the agenda of any board or committee within 72 hours of a meeting and addressed no later than the next scheduled meeting. We'll go ahead and open it for debate. Okay, seeing no hands raised and no motion to the mic, we'll go ahead and put this to a vote. It requires a majority vote, and we'll open the voting now and give you 20 seconds. Okay, please close the vote. And the amendment fails.
Oh, wow. Oh, my.
97 to 97. Well, you guys were spot on that one. Wow. All right. Yeah, just to be clear, it failed. Yep. Okay, I have a motion to reconsider and seconded. We'll go ahead and open that up for debate. Again, motion to reconsider, a yes vote would bring this open for discussion again. A no vote would not bring it open for discussion again, and in any case, it can only be done once.
On the amendment, correct?
This is on the motion to reconsider the amendment. Yes, sir. Okay, seeing no hands raised and no motion to the mic, we'll go ahead and put this to a vote. It does require a 2/3 vote, and we'll open the voting now and give you 20 seconds. Okay, close the vote, please. Okay, the motion to reconsider fails with 85 yes and 149 no. All right, back to the main motion on Article 35, Section 3. Mr. Townsend, yeah.
Mark Townsend, 10 Harvestview Way. I just think it's important for the chair of a board to have discretion over a meeting agenda. And I think it's important for everyone to understand what goes into building an agenda. It sounds easy, but it's not always as easy as you would think. And a lot of times we get requests for things on an agenda. They don't go on the next agenda because we know they're coming down the line. We know that 2 or 3 agendas down the line, that's going to be an agenda. So it gets on that agenda. So I think to mandate that it's on the next agenda is just contrary to a lot of times what is going on. So I would urge you not to vote for this portion of the article. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Yes, sir.
Alan Maynard, 148 Plymouth Street. I'll try to be brief. I thought the amendment that I offered would resolve the problem. I don't believe it did. We voted down the first item. We voted down the amendment, which would have made this more palatable. This item 3 strikes me as a compromise to give the citizens who are obviously of this town very concerned about transparency some sense that they're being heard. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yep.
Okay, so I just wanted to say we can withdraw 3, 4, and 5 and move on because this is obviously, we need to work on these things a little bit more. And I respect the fact that everybody, has time that is into this meeting. So, we can withdraw these and move on and come back hopefully and work on these again with more ideas like you guys are giving to us. So we listen.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Moderator?
Hold on. All right, go ahead. Yep.
All right, if I may, Ms. Cooney? I'd
Yes.
perhaps recommend a motion to indefinitely postpone Articles 3, Section 3, 4, and 5. Because what happens is you can't withdraw it. It's in the warrant. So this indefinitely postpones what we did with the FinCom bylaw. This just takes it off tonight's business.
Okay, can I do that to
does it.
a motion to
Indefinitely postpone.
indefinitely postpone?
Second.
And can you be clear about what we're indefinitely postponing? I'm sorry.
3, 4, and
For
5.
Articles 3, 4, and 5.
So is it sections
Sections 3, 4, and 5
of which article?
of Article 42.
30.
35, sorry.
35.
All right. Keep it down.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and second to indefinitely postpone sections 3, 4, and 5 of Article 35.
Correct.
It is debatable. We'll open it for debate.
Call the question.
All right, everybody, please keep it down. Okay, seeing no hands raised and no motion to the mic, this does require a majority vote, and we'll go ahead and open the vote now and give you 20 seconds. Okay, please close the vote. Okay, and the motion to indefinitely postpone sections 3, 4, and 5 of Article 35 has passed with 208 yes and 23 no. Okay, moving on to Article 36, Citizens Petition Lithium-Ion Battery Storage. We have a motion?
Motion.
Okay, I have a motion. Okay, motion's been made and seconded on Article 36. Does the petitioner have some information for us?
Hi, I'm Dan Farini. I'm here to speak to you about Article 36 tonight. We all know that there's a large battery farm looming in North Carver. That permit has been in existence for 5 years now. The big issue is we have been trying to stop it, but there are some safety issues with that. I live 1,500 feet from it. The elementary school is less than 1,000 feet from the proposed site. The developers have just come out, I don't know if anybody knows it, have decided to change the layout and the batteries they're putting in there. They're changing it from pack 1 to pack 2, which is a more denser battery. The more I read on these batteries, the more scared I get. Not only if the battery catches on fire, there's no putting it out. Our fire department will have I'll just say a mess on their hands. What I've read on this is if you were to come to one of these fires, you better be dressed in full respirator gear, full gear from head to toe. It's not only the battery that's a problem, it's the coolant, it's everything involved, and our aquifer sits directly below the proposed site. What this article does, it has nothing to do with the current battery farm, but it's for proposals in the future. And if our battery farms, if our battery farm has to come back and reapply, this will then go into existence. So what this article is, this article is based on the advice of national experts on fire safety, emergency response, air toxin, battery storage, and the advice of municipal law firms of Meyer and Harrington. This is what they say we should do to make battery storage more safer in Carver. And this is for 10 megawatts battery and larger. It does not affect solar fields or people's batteries on their houses. To specify, this is the section 9-93. The purpose of this article is to specify a permit requirement for the operation of battery storage equipment to protect the public health, safety, convenience, and general welfare. What it does is a special permit rule will be required from the planning board. Article 36 says that information an applicant for a permit has to provide, such as they have to have an emergency response operation plan that meets 10 standards and 7 standards for getting a special permit. Why I'm bringing this up is if we put this in place and we have a fire and your children are in the elementary school, we have no plan. Nobody knows what we're going to do or how we're going to get those kids out of the school. If our roads get locked down, we don't know how we're going to get around this. What are we going to do? Nobody has said anything to any of us in 5 years. There is no plan developed. I'm not talking about the fire department. I'm talking about the developers who are putting this in should provide this. So, section 9-94, there's key points. It sets out 12 pieces of information required in a special permit application. Things like an emergency operations plan, hazard mitigation, analysis, and details about the batteries and safety. Section 9-95, it's emergency operation plan, which will require the developer to supply 10 items. Procedures for shutdown, procedures for inspection and testing, procedures for emergency notices. When something does happen, how do we get noticed? Procedures for fire, procedures for explosive release of gases and vapors. What happens and what do we do as citizens? How do we protect ourselves? It will also identify any of the hazards of fire, explosion, or release of vapors or liquids. What the hell is going to come out of this thing when it catches on fire? It's going to give instructions for a response team and who the response team is. It's going to require an evacuation plan, and it's going to require emergency response guide. And thirdly, it allows the planning board to enforce this bylaw. One of the things I've been sitting in the meeting on the current battery farm is it will provide very little revenue to the town, maybe some taxes. It will not provide any power. If we lose power, the battery farm goes off-site and gets shut down. The whole purpose of this battery farm is to make money for them. The purpose is during night when we're not using power, when it's at its cheapest cost, they're going to recharge these batteries. During the day when the power is needed at the highest cost, they're going to feed it back into the system. So we get very little and we have to deal with the dangers. So I'm asking you, please, to vote this in. This will help protect you, me, and all our families. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Hold your applause. Okay, we'll go ahead and open it for debate. Okay, seeing no hands raised and no motion
Hear
to...
from the fire chief, the assistant deputy fire chief.
I'm sorry, was there a hand? Oh. Chief Weston.
Sure.
The deputy.
Just a statement. The question was asked for the fire department, so I just want to make a statement. As your fire chief for almost 18 years and serving Carver public safety for 35 years, the integrity of my family and the Carver Fire Department has always been at the highest priority. I certainly hope and have proven that serving you all throughout my career. In 2018, when my family was approached with a renewable energy company in regards to a proposed energy storage facility, I immediately recognized as the fire chief and the authority having jurisdiction that I needed to remove myself from the process, allowing an unbiased public safety review of the project. I then filed a document, what's called the Disclosure of Appearance, Conflict of Interest, as required by Mass General Law, with the Town Administrator's Office, Select Board, and the Town's Clerk's Office. As part of that disclosure, I delegated my full authority as the fire chief, the Deputy Fire Chief Eric Germain, on all issues pertaining to this parcel. Deputy Germain has authority to oversee Assistant Deputy Fire Chief, as was asked, Assistant Deputy Chief Boyle, on all code reviews, permitting, and special permits required by the fire department on this matter. If Deputy Germain needed to discuss the matter at a higher level, he could refer to the town administrator or individuals at a state level. Additionally, in order to eliminate the appearance of any future conflicts, I removed myself from the involvement and input on all renewable energy projects submitted to the fire department, as all projects are reviewed by Assistant Deputy Boyle in charge of code enforcement with Assistant Deputy Germain. With that said, I defer any questions as Mr. Germain regarded to Deputy Germain or Assistant Boyle. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weston. Ms. Dormer?
This article actually has nothing to do with the fire department. This is actually going back to the developer. These are requirements for the developer to come into our town. Our fire department does a hell of a job, and this is nothing to do with the fire. This is based on the developer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Dormer.
Hi. Mary Dormer, 162 Plymouth Street. What this article will do, it will take the bylaw out of the zoning bylaw so that the citizens will have more of a say and put it into the general bylaw. It will also limit battery storage to 10 megawatts, and I think that's really important. There's no downside to voting this in.
Thank you. Mr. Moore?
Savory Moore, 12 South Main Street. I just want to point out that something Mr. Farini said was that this did not benefit the citizens of Carver. When they use the battery storage power during times of peak energy use, they do that because now with battery storage, they do not have to turn on a coal-fired plant, nor do they have to turn on a natural gas-fired plant to create that same amount of electricity. So not only does this battery storage benefit Carver residents, it benefits every resident in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Yes, sir.
Eric Germain, Main Street, your Deputy Fire Chief. Due to the disclosure and the Chief's removal from the process, I would ask our Code Enforcement Assistant Deputy Chief Boyle to talk to some of the points that were brought up by a previous speaker.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Moderator. Everybody hear me okay? Good. Guess that's an affirmative. My name's Jesse Boyle. I am the Code Enforcement Officer for the Carver Fire Department, a 20-year veteran of the fire department, live here in town on Rochester Road. I have certifications and qualifications to the highest level of chief officer training in the state, as well as the highest available fire prevention officer training through the State Fire Academy. We've been working on this project for the better part of 5 years. It has taken up a lot of our time at the fire department. Myself, I have training through the NFPA, which is the National Fire Protection Association, through UL, which is the Underwriters Laboratories, as well as just a hobby. I read a lot. I immerse myself in the knowledge that's available out there. And yes, lithium-ion batteries are a big topic in the fire service right now. Any fire prevention officer, any operations officer worth their salt in the fire industry is researching these things. They're doing education on it. And we're no different here in Carver. And we've been at the forefront of it for the better part of 5 years. Not technically in my wheelhouse, but I do know that when we attended meetings with the planning board, and I'm looking at Mr. Mackey, the numbers that were discussed for the revenue to the town were well over $1 million a year. Again, not my wheelhouse, but I haven't heard that figure mentioned. Mr. Germain, I don't know if you're privy to that, being on the FinCom, but $1 million per year minimum, and this was 5 years ago. The project has more value to it now. There's more money being spent on it. So be that as it may. Appreciate the efforts of Mr. Farini and Carver Concerned Citizens. I will say that virtually all of the items mentioned in this bylaw are already required either through the Massachusetts Fire Code, the National Fire Protection Association Code number 855, which is the code for these types of facilities, as well as our local Carver bylaws. Regardless of however the vote goes on this, these rules, these regulations, these codes will be enforced. In addition to the bylaw that was voted on earlier, same thing. All of these codes, all of these requirements are required no matter what. They're code. They're a law. They're in the Massachusetts Fire Code. We can't work around that. I will take any questions if anybody here that wants to ask something while I'm up here. I've got plenty of things I can cite.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Hold on. We had someone else before you. Yep, Mr. Germain.
Alan Germain, Chairman of the Finance Committee. Jesse's correct. This is the better part of $20 to $25 million in revenue to the town over the next 20, 25 years. I don't want to be disrespectful to the planning board, so this is not meant to be that. I don't like words when I see it is unlawful for any person to have anything over what they think is a good idea. I don't like words like battery bomb. I don't like the hyperbole of it's within 1,000 feet of the elementary school. It is not within 1,000 feet of the elementary.
All right, no, hey.
It is not within 1,000 feet of the elementary.
All right, no. There will be no shouting across the room, okay? If you would like to speak, you can wait to be recognized.
May I continue?
Mr. Germain, you have the floor.
Sorry I upset you. I much prefer, and I would put my faith in the state licensing agencies, the Carver Fire Department experts, the NFPA, the fire regulations. I really don't want it to be the kind of a hot topic you just heard because someone doesn't like it and they happen to be sitting on a board that can try to control it. That's where I'm coming from with it. I would vote no for this.
Keep it down. Hey, no more shouting out. Hey, wait for your opportunity to speak. You may approach the mic and be recognized.
I would vote no on this. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to say this very clearly, okay? There are rules of decorum for this meeting, okay? We are not animals. This isn't social media. There is a rule. You approach the mic, you ask to be recognized. We will recognize you. All right. 2 warnings, okay? I think you were next.
Yes, Deb Giswaldo, 204 Main Street, and I risk wearing out my welcome here. I realize that, but I do have a question through you, Mr. Moderator. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm going to be concerned with the schools. And I understand there's redundancy between this, what's proposed, and what has already been done in the regulations. So my question is this. Between our fire department and the school committee, is this something that you will be working on, an evacuation plan, or something that assures us that we are ready, God forbid something goes wrong? I mean, I know I could go walk out here and fall down the curb and broke today. So anything can happen, but I want to know, are you going to be working with the school department and vice versa to address the concerns of people to evacuate our children?
Yes, sir.
All right, through you, Mr. Moderator, and also with the permission of Deputy Germain, who's our operations deputy, I can answer this question. We work very closely with the schools, to begin with just basic fire prevention, teaching kids how to stop, drop, and roll, teaching them as they get older to prevent fires from happening. That's a big role in what we do in any fire department. It's our #1 mission is fire prevention. With that, we do school fire drills. In addition to school fire drills, I'm part of the crisis intervention team on both this school and the elementary school. We just had a meeting today about things like school evacuations. It's a constant. There are so many plans in place to make sure our children are safe, and my children too go to school in this town, to make sure that everybody's okay. Additionally, the fire department has to respond to every hazard that occurs in this town, of which we have multiple hazards. Any of these hazards that occur, whether it's any sort of hazmat spill with a gasoline tanker that rolls over, a propane event, a natural gas event, any large-scale event that would require evacuation, these are already in place. These systems are in place. We're prepared to do that right now. If the call comes in right now, we're getting up, we're leaving, we're going to go mitigate the incident. This is what pre-planning is for. This is what training is for. This is what the area resources from every other fire department in the state has available at their fingertips through the state fire marshal's office. These are all part of what the fire department does every day. We prepare. This isn't Manhattan. We're not running jobs all day long. 99% of what we do in the fire service is prepare, and we are prepared to handle any emergency that you can think of in this town. Ms. Giswaldo, I hope that answered your question.
It does, and I do know deep inside how hard everybody works at the schools. And you guys, I did how many fire drills, active shooter drills, you name it, I've done it. But I want to be, I guess what I'm asking for is an assurance that since this is new and this is specialized, and these are known to burn, there's one in Chandler, Arizona, I have a friend living in Maricopa, it burned for a long time. I want to know that the evacuation plans will be specific to this type of event, should, God forbid, it ever happen. I mean, the drill of, say we have an active shooter and we come back around to the fire station to a safe place, and I'm retired, so I'm speaking like I'm currently, but I'm not. So we know teachers how to do all of that, the kids know what to do, the administrators know what to do, but I'm saying this does seem to be different. So are you going to be working on incident-specific plans with the school department, not general? You guys do a great job, I know that. But I want to know that this type of facility, which will be new to Carver, Massachusetts, that our children and my friends that are so dear to me at that elementary school are going to be safe. I need to hear that from our leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to address the question?
I certainly can address that. Again, back to our multi-hazard operational plans. I know it sounds like that's what they pray us to do, right? All these acronyms and multisyllabic words like that. We monitor the air. We establish where the air is safe and where it is not safe. Mr. Farini had pointed out that firefighters would have to wear protective clothing and air packs, breathing apparatus. We wear that at every incident. As a matter of fact, this group yesterday approved the purchase of new air cylinders for the fire department, and we're very grateful for that. That's part of what we do. We would monitor the air. We would determine if the best course of action is to stay in place, whether it's for residents, whether it's for the school, or if the best course of action would be to evacuate. We have those plans in place. It's not difficult to do.
Thank you, sir.
Moderator, thank you.
In the middle.
Gail Nowen, 15 Old Main Street. We have some really big issues with this, but if somebody could, correct me if I'm wrong, I think I heard Dan Farini say that this citizens group is going to supersede what the planning board will do?
Are you asking him a question?
Yes, I'm asking that question.
No, we are not superseding. We were asking that,
Wasn't,
if a permit gets placed, it has to go before the planning board. It's a general bylaw that this will have to go before the planning board, and there will be 10 stages that have to be done. Exactly, an evacuation plan.
oh, no, not that. You said something about how it has to go to you.
No,
On
we
the
have.
citizens.
No, it does not.
Okay, so
It does
you
not.
didn't say that?
No, I did not.
Okay, I'm wrong then.
Oh,
Just
thank
wanted to clarify that. Thanks.
May I make a statement? It's been 5 years. I haven't seen an evacuation plan. If this thing goes in, do I stay in my house and lock my windows, or do I evacuate the town? I have no idea. We haven't been told anything. And it's been 5 years in the planning. So this is what I'm asking for, that when one of these come in, this has to be in place before the permits. And that's all this is asking for. Thank you.
Ms. Dormer.
I just want to reiterate that what we're asking for is that the town adopt this to go into a general bylaw and take it out of zoning. Cranberry Point has already asked the EFSB if they can have complete exemption of our zoning laws. So that means that no matter what they want to do, they can do it without any say from our town, from our boards. If we put this into a general bylaw, the citizens will have the right to have control over this. Additionally, if this blows up, if there is a thermal runaway or a catastrophic event, make no mistake about it, there will be a stay in place. And Chief Weston has already said during when we had the select board meeting for the 40B that Carver does not have enough water to put out a fire for an apartment building. In 2016, the master plan says that they don't have enough water to put out a fire in Miles Standish. How are they going to have enough water to put out a fire if the batteries blow up? This is about safety. We need to take control of this. Vote yes on this.
Thank you, Ms. Dormer. Sir.
Justin Wedby, 69 Fosdick Road. I've been a utility worker for 13 years, and this is very new technology compared to natural gas. The fact that we have people so confident
Keep it down.
Nothing will go wrong and we have procedures in place. I worked the Merrimack Valley explosion, and no one in the gas industry ever saw that coming. And that's been 100 years plus we've been using natural gas in this country, have all these safety precautions and measures in the way, and that still happened. We have no idea the worst that can happen with this. So any step towards safety on this issue should be voted on, and it shouldn't be disregarded. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, keep your applause down. Sir.
Yeah, Bill Duggan, 285 Meadow Street. I think it seems like there's an agreement that this is potentially a disastrous thing. And my question is, why are we putting it in a residential area? I mean, there's got to be someplace else where you don't have to worry about evacuation. You don't have to worry about it. I mean, why is it being put there? If it's so much safety stuff is, trying to keep it contained, why put it there?
Thank you, sir. Sir.
Hi, Mike Main, 56 Crystal Lake. I'd like the chief up here or his protege. I didn't get a chance to ask him questions.
You can ask questions and then we can ask him to provide responses, but you cannot have a conversation with him. I'm sorry.
Oh, I want to ask him questions.
So ask the question.
Okay. You know lithium metal is so fine, so light, it floats in water.
Lithium-ion batteries don't have lithium metal in them.
And I'm wondering what you're going to do when it gets in the aqua system now that North Carver's knocked out and we got Middleborough water. First question.
Okay, lithium-ion batteries do not contain any lithium metal.
Oh, it's got metal, believe me. It's light. It'll get in our water system. What happens when it goes into the air from the heat and it covers the town?
Sir?
All right, so valid questions. Lithium-ion is a more complicated chemistry than lithium metal. These little devices we have around our necks right now have lithium metal batteries in them. Lithium-ion batteries contain the lithium suspended in a salt, so it doesn't have any actual lithium metal in it. And that's significant because lithium metal is water reactive. It doesn't like to experience water if it's on fire. So lithium-ion has a lot more stability than lithium metal batteries. Second point, if the batteries were on fire, and not just lithium-ion batteries in a battery storage system, but the components that we have in our lives every day, our iPhones, our tablets, our laptops, electric vehicles, our power tools, hoverboards, e-bikes, it goes on and on and on. These are allowed in our homes now. They're legal. There probably isn't anybody in this room that doesn't have some sort of lithium-ion device on their person right now or in their house. And again, they're not illegal. It's okay. They're in homes. The battery storage products that we have in our homes are a little bit more energy, but they're also allowed by law with regulations. So, point being, if we had a fire in one of these, we don't spray water on it. I know that's been discussed. I've heard the arguments. I've seen the discussions on social media. At one point, 5 or 6 years ago, the practice was to spray water in them to extinguish the fire. The fire service has changed in 5 years. The fire service has changed in the last 5 months. Right now, the guidance from the professionals, from the engineers, from the National Fire Protection Association, which is all the greatest minds in the fire service, have determined the best practice is to let the batteries burn out. Just like we would do if Volta Oil rolled over a tractor trailer on South Meadow Road right now and 9,000 gallons of gasoline was on fire. We can't put that out. It burns out. Does it create a problem? Yeah, you betcha. You all drove here tonight in your cars. You all put gasoline in your cars from a gas station here in Carver that received gasoline from a tractor trailer. It's a risk that we take in our lives. It's a hazard that exists every day. We have to live with some of it. And I understand the points that the gentleman made earlier about the natural gas problems that happened up in Lawrence a few years ago. Unprecedented, probably won't happen again in our lifetime. A lot of lessons were learned from that. There is a certain inherent risk in everything we do. It's the fire department's job to manage the risk as far as emergencies and how we mitigate them. It's the job of things like the fire code and the building code and the electrical code and all of these codes to regulate these things to keep us as safe as possible in our homes and our places of business as we go about our lives. There's risk in everything. I believe that there's a risk with lithium-ion batteries that's much higher in the consumer products that we see every day. That's what the FDNY is talking about. If you see the constant fires we see in the city of New York, their personal mobility devices, their scooters, their e-bikes, their hoverboards, they're not battery storage devices in large scale. Hope that helps to answer some of your questions.
It does, but you're talking a very...
To Mr. Moderator,
Okay, you
I
cannot
know that
speak directly to him.
This could go on for hours.
Yeah, well, there's still...
Sir, you cannot speak directly to him.
Okay.
Do you have any other further information to offer or a question?
Yeah, I was wondering, what happens with the Freon if it leaks? This new battery has Freon.
Sir.
So the coolant systems that are designed within these are very similar to what you'd have in your motor vehicle. It's a system that's used to cool the batteries. The containers that the batteries are located inside of have to be maintained in a temperature-controlled environment. That's part of the fire code. It's also how the batteries work. They don't want to be too cold. They don't want to be too hot. So it uses basically an air conditioning system, the same air conditioning system that we're feeling with comfortable air right now, the same air conditioning system you have in your car. It's just common refrigerant. When that refrigerant burns and has a problem, yeah, it's a big deal. But that's why when firefighters go into burning buildings, we wear our air packs and we go in and put the fire out and we go home. So that you'd have the same situation. Anything, when it burns, is toxic. Whether it's your lithium-ion battery or your refrigerant gas or even your cook fire in your backyard that I hope none of you had tonight because it's been a red flag day these last couple of days. So watch your cook fires. I do fire prevention too. Even that smoke is toxic. It gives off a high level of carbon monoxide. That's why we don't want you to have a campfire in your garage. So there is a level of toxic smoke to everything. But yeah, refrigerant's bad when it burns, but it's around us everywhere. It is completely around every part of our lives. Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And I'd like to bring up what he's talking about is such a small scale. It's like comparing the town of Carver, Texas. We're talking batteries in a phone. We're talking radiators in a car. We're not talking major stuff here. This is a joke.
Thank you. I think you were first. Yep.
May I be seated, Mr. Moderator?
Was that?
May I be seated?
I'm sorry.
May I be seated?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Great, thank you.
Anytime you like, sir.
I had a question. Karen Lapham, Main Street again.
Yeah.
I'm just curious to the deputy chief. Are these plans available for the public to see somewhere? These evacuation plans that you talk of, is your plan in public so that we could see that?
I'm sorry, specifically to your question, I didn't understand. I was
Sure.
sitting down.
You mentioned a few moments ago that these that you had plans in place, plans are already litigated. Do you have these plans in public that if anybody wanted to come up and see them, that they could come up to the fire station and check them out?
Waiting for permission from
Well,
the
excuse
boss.
me. Oh, yes, sir.
All right, thank
Sorry.
you, Craig. I heard some people get yelled at earlier for speaking. I want to lose my birthday.
Appreciate you trying to follow the rules.
So obviously, some tongue-in-cheek humor. So the way an evacuation procedure works is we have to take a look at this incident as it's occurring.
Excuse me? I just asked a specific question. Are there plans available for us to see? You don't have plan right now in place, or some type of a plan that we as the general public could come and see?
Specific to a school or a neighborhood?
Well, I believe you want to have this facility near our school, in our neighborhoods, and in the neighborhoods behind it. So I would say both, you have a plan in place. This is in my backyard. It's in many people's, but this is literally where I walk my dog. This is my backyard. So I'm just curious because it's just my specific question. Are there plans available for the public to come and see?
The plans would be based on what the hazard is. So if there was a shelter-in-place situation, that was the information that would be communicated. If we wanted people to leave their homes or to leave the school, that is the information that we would communicate. I should also point out that the proposed site for this battery storage project is on a 35-acre parcel that's bounded by 2 other 35-acre parcels. By the definition of NFPA 855, which is the code and the requirements for battery energy storage systems, this is considered remote. It meets the definition of remote.
Excuse me, that's not really remote. So
Okay, you can't,
I don't write
I'm
the
sorry, you
codes, I
can't
just
have a
follow it.
conversation on town meeting floor between the
I-
both of you. Okay, so you've asked the question, hold on. The question is there a plan on file that's publicly available for someone to view? Just, if you would enlighten us with just a yes or no, please.
No.
Okay, thank you.
My next question would be, I'm just curious, do you know where there is another facility in our state or anywhere that's of this magnitude? Is there one in this state?
There are 15 megawatts of battery storage in Carver as we speak that are operational.
That's this size?
The size is relative to the size of the container. This just has more containers in it, but each
How many
container
containers
has
is
the
this
same
one?
energy.
Okay, there's
curious how much-
again, you're devolving into conversation between each other. So I need you to present your questions. If you have a list of questions.
I'll reword it then. So my next question would be, sir, I'm just curious, what is the size of this container?
Do you want physical dimensions? Do you want power requirements? I am not the applicant. I am not the one building the facility.
Anyways,
all right,
and the
hold
general
on one sec.
aspect of it.
Hold on one sec. Where is this line of
I'm
questioning
going
going?
to end my question, and I'm just going to say.
No, can you just state what the purpose of the questioning is?
Well,
What
the
is it
purpose
that
of
you
my
were trying to
question-
ascertain?
The purpose of my question is, he said we could ask questions, so I had just a couple of questions. I live right there. Just a couple questions. I've been told, I've read, I kind of get the idea that these are like a tractor trailer size, approximately.
That's incorrect.
It's what?
That is incorrect.
Okay. And then I'm going to also go with it. The whole bottom line of this, really, at the end of the day, at the end of the meeting, is really just safety. It's just promoting and putting more safety out there, more safety for our town and community. I'm not disrespecting the fire department by no means at all. I'm concerned that there's really not an exact plan or an idea of a plan, and I do appreciate all your efforts. I think that it's not fair for somebody to say that it's not near residents, because it is, and I also agree that it's not fair to compare this project to a battery, electric battery, or cell phone battery. So thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Sir in the middle.
Charles Dubois, 36 Weston. I understand you guys have an action plan. Just wondering what kind of equipment you guys have. Generally speaking, lithium ion wants a powder. Just wondering if you guys have adequate resources to deal with the sizes I don't know the exact size. I know that 50 megawatts is what we currently have. I'm assuming it's going to go up to somewhere around 250 megawatts. Not even that big?
No, sir.
Okay, so I just was wondering what you guys have for materials to deal with this if it was to ever happen.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'll preface my comments with saying, it's not my job to stand up here and advocate for or against this project. My job is to stand up here and say, no matter what goes into the town of Carver, I will make all efforts to make sure that it's as safe as can possibly be for the citizens of this town, for myself, for my family, for my fellow 90 firefighters that are the ones that will be responding to an emergency when it happens. To answer this gentleman's question, as I stated earlier, the procedure is to let the fire burn out. We have the equipment to let things burn out. It really doesn't take much. We would monitor the air. If the fire were to spread, we would contain that, but there is no effort to put the fire out. The fire burns out, the problem goes away. The faster the fire burns out, the faster the problem goes away, the faster we go about our lives. And I do take exception with saying that these are more dangerous than the items that are in our homes. I don't recommend that anybody lives inside of a battery energy storage container. But we do have batteries in our homes, and that's why there's a hazard with even the small ones.
Thank you, sir.
Ellen Maynard, 148A Plymouth Street. I don't know if anybody else has had a spinning at this point. Mine is, I thought we were debating an Article 36 on the bylaw. We seem to have gotten into a general discussion on the safety or advisability of battery storage. My question is pertaining to the article. The only objection heard to the article is that it is redundant. Is that the objection to the article, or is there another objection that someone has enunciated that I haven't heard? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Brings up a good point, which is that we've heard a lot of discussion here about the safety of lithium-ion battery storage facilities. It would appear to me as though this recommended bylaw is attempting to put a limit on the size of such facility and to put a special permit process in place for anything larger than that size. So we should probably keep the conversation focused on that merit as to whether or not, as this is written, this makes sense. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr. Shea.
Moderator. Cornelius Shea, Plymouth Street, Carver. I just have a point of clarification in regards to this. Despite what was said earlier by Mr. Jermaine, the planning board had no part in this article. We had no part in the writing, the developing, the editing, or the proposal itself. We didn't even make a recommendation on it. This is a town bylaw. It is not a zoning bylaw and is therefore outside of our purview. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shea. Sir?
Yes, Eric Weston, 189 Main Street. What I'd like to say is this body discussed at length last year about a moratorium on battery storage and solar. This body decided to form a committee to study it for the last year. They made a bylaw that we voted on tonight in the affirmative. It was vetted, it was run through town council, it was worked on by diverse board members of cross-section of the town. It was involved a planning board, as Mr. Shea just said. So it was supported, vetted, and done by all the people appropriate in the town. I feel, and we voted on that tonight. So I stand against this article because we did the diligence, we did the work, and we voted on an article to help us and to protect us. And I'm going to trust the people that worked on it for a year. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, hold your applause, please. All right, sir on the left.
Michael Nicolazzo. I'm at, what is it, 10? Yeah, 10 Truman Court. And I've been involved in environmental science for 50 years. And I've heard enough BS to do me for the rest of my life here. Does anybody have any idea how big a lithium battery from a car is? Anybody? As big as the car. Okay? As big as a car. Goes from bumper to bumper, side to side. That huge. Electric cars are going to be obsolete in about by 2035 because lithium batteries are slowly coming into their own, and they're going to replace them. Where are we going to put all these batteries? I don't know. We don't know how to put the fires
sir,
out.
hold on.
I'm just information, that's all. Just trying to let you know.
Yeah, again, we want to try to keep the conversation focused on the merits of putting the 10 megawatt limit in place and putting a permit requirement on anything over 10 megawatts. Okay. Ms. Shea.
Kim Shea, 148 Plymouth Street. The
Sir,
zoning, the
watch your language and please don't shout
bylaws
out.
that we approved tonight, I would like to say that this actually enhances it. It's a surrogate, it supplements it, I guess is a good word to put it. And I really support it. It puts limits and things that were not put in the bylaws that we approved earlier are here. And it is added protection. And I don't think it's redundant. I think it actually helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shea. Ms. Forant.
I just wanted to say thank you to the committee that worked on the previous bylaw that we voted on tonight. We had different planning board members on that committee. We had all different aspects of our town to participate in that. And I also would like to move this article. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Forant. Seeing no hands, no further motion of the mic, we'll go ahead and put this article to a vote. So on Article 36, citizens' position for lithium-ion battery storage to see if the town will adopt changes in the general bylaw for protection of the public health, safety, and welfare as written in the warrant. This does require a majority vote. We'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and open the vote now and give you 20 seconds. Okay, please close the vote. With that, Article 36 fails with 97 yes and 136 no.